Hey folks, this is Kalani. We have all sorts of news to talk about this week, including talks of Shadowlands flying being a bit different than what we first imagined. There are many changes to the raid and dungeon systems, and we also have some brand new conduits to check out. Let's jump right in. Let's start by addressing flying in Shadowlands, because I've seen a lot of players who are confused with the recent message from Blizzard, and I know a lot of people have pointed out the strange wording used in a blue post and have kind of run away with it. If you aren't sure about what's been going on, the blue post that highlighted the flying unlock that's coming in patch 9.1 essentially said unlocking flying on one character by completing the appropriate patch 9.1 campaign chapters would unlock the ability for all of your alts to purchase Shadowlands flying. The word that people homed in on was purchased. What do we have to purchase? Do alts have to do something different or special? Has the way in which you unlock Shadowlands flying changed and now you have to buy it? Those were the questions that were zooming around the community due to the poor wording of that blue post, but I have great news. Unlocking flying in Shadowlands has not changed. You complete 3 chapters of the new patch 9.1 story campaign, you get an item to unlock flying, and that's it. That's all you have to do. After you've done that, every character on your account can fly. There's nothing to purchase, and your alts don't have to do anything at all, let alone anything special. Apparently, the word purchase was used to reflect the fact that you do have to purchase expert flying in order to unlock Shadowlands flying for your character. The ability to fly in Shadowlands is rolled into that expert flying training. So as long as you have trained how to fly, which I assume every character will have if you're high enough level to enter a Shadowlands zone, you don't have to do anything else. You don't have to take my word for it though, the blue post itself has been changed. It used to read, this consumable item allows all characters on your account to purchase the riding skill needed, and it has now been changed to, this consumable item allows all characters on your account with expert riding skill to fly. So there you go, you don't have to worry about flying in Shadowlands being troublesome for your alts whatsoever. Nothing has changed, so the next time one of your guildies brings it up, be sure to send them over to the changed blue post. I've seen a lot of players who are confused or angry about this supposed bait and switch, but really it was just poor wording of a blue post. On the topic of flying, one of everyone's favourite new mounts to collect in Shadowlands will also unlock the ability to fly in patch 9.1. Sin runner Blanchy has suffered enough in Revendreth, and with her basically being a ghost horse, you would expect her to be able to fly already, right? Well, sadly not. She is tethered to the ground right now, even though plenty of other horse mounts can fly, like the various unicorns we've been collecting since Legion. Well, patch 9.1 is going to change all of that. Sin runner Blanchy will be able to take to the skies and run you around all of the main Shadowlands zones. So if you were worried you'd have to find a different mount to ride through the skies, you don't have to worry any longer. Are there any other ground-only mounts that you would love to see gain the ability to fly? Leave your suggestions in the comment section below. Moving on, the latest build also gave us confirmation of something that many players have been suspecting for a while now. The new mega dungeon, Tazavesh the Veiled Market, will in fact have a hard mode. A new quest was added into the PTR recently called Tazavesh Seek and Do Not Destroy. The quest text asks you to defeat the first 4 bosses on hard mode in Tazavesh the Veiled Market. That's very interesting, but sadly, that's all we have to work with right now. We don't have any solid information on how this is going to work so far, and whether or not the last boss will be included in this hard mode, maybe for a special mount or achievement. But I'm sure these hard modes will also be sort of secretive, and they won't be immediately obvious with how to trigger them. If you remember back to Karazhan, the whole Nightbane boss was basically a secret hidden away in the entire dungeon, and then Mechagon had some quirky triggers for the hard modes in that dungeon, so if the past is anything to go by, we should expect some weird and wonderful ways to trigger this new hard mode, and I can't wait to see what they could be. As always, when we get some more information, I'll be sure to let you know, and you can guarantee we'll be making a video explaining the whole hard mode adventure in Tazavesh when the patch goes live. Now, on the topic of dungeons, there have been more changes to various Mythic Plus achievements and reward structures to work alongside the new Mythic Plus score, instead of the old requirements method of running specific dungeons at specific key levels. The changes in this latest build are related to upgrading gear through the Valor system. If you've used this system, you probably know about the 3 different progression gates that limit your maximum item level through upgrading gear with Valor. These gates used to be completing every dungeon at level 5 or above, then 10 or above, and then the last one was 15 or above. All of these achievements have changed to require Mythic Plus score instead of key levels. For example, to upgrade your gear to rank 7, which will be item level 229 in patch 9.1, you'll now need to earn at least 750 Mythic Plus score. To upgrade to rank 9, which is item level 236, you'll need at least 1500 Mythic Plus score, and then the last achievement that unlocks rank 11 and rank 12 will require 2000 Mythic Plus score. We know that completing every dungeon on a plus 15 key, on both Fortified and Tyrannical, currently adds up to about 2000 score, but due to how the entire system works and its inherent flexibility, it's pretty hard to put a fixed key level goal to each of these score requirements. Honestly, I think it's going to be much easier to understand and get a grasp of when the system is implemented in-game, but I imagine the overall difficulty of attaining these score goals won't really have changed much from the previous achievement requirements. But it looks like the Mythic Plus score will be used for anything and everything related to the Mythic Plus Keystone system going forward. And to round out our dungeon news for the week, some of the new anima power options from the new seasonal affix, Tormented, have been changed and tweaked to scale differently. While a few powers have been nerfed or buffed very slightly, the main change I want to focus on is how the damage scaling has changed for several powerful abilities. Powers like the Bottle of Sanguine Ichor, the Fifth Skull, and Volcanic Plumage used to scale with the key level, so the higher the level of dungeon you were doing, the more damage these abilities could contribute. That could cause a few problems and lead to players relying almost entirely on these powers to pull off some crazy pulls in dungeons. We've seen powers scale like this before, like the Zap bots in Mechagon or the Plague Borers in Plaguefall. When this kind of stuff scales with key level, it becomes a game of exploiting them to their maximum potential. So these abilities no longer scale with key level, they will instead scale with your gear. The formulas are kinda long, but essentially your attack power, spell power, and versatility drive most of the damage scaling, so the better gear you get, the more damage all of these abilities will do, which really makes sense to me. It's also going to help your overall progression because the stronger you get, the stronger these abilities will get, therefore the easier key runs will become if you select some of these powers. This also means that powers could end up being insanely strong in lower key levels if you significantly outgear the content, which should make farming lower keys much faster and more efficient if you're looking to super farm up some of that Valor currency in patch 9.1. In other news, the 9.1 raid, the Sanctum of Domination, looks like it will have another skip quest to allow you to skip over the vast majority of the raid when you've killed a specific late boss enough times. For Castle Nathria, that late boss was Sludgefist. After you collected Sludgefist's head 4 times and handed in the quest, you were allowed to skip straight to Sludgefist after killing Shriekwing. That cut out the vast majority of the raid and let you move forward to the Stone Legion Generals and Sire Denathrius incredibly quickly. Well, for the Sanctum of Domination raid, it looks like we'll be skipping even further. A data mined quest item called a Phylactery Shard fits the bill quite nicely. This item stacks up to 4 times, which would suggest we have another 4-week 4-quest item turn-in, and the item also has normal, heroic, and mythic versions. I don't know what other evidence you would need really, besides maybe a boss to go with the item. It just and so happens that the second to last boss of this raid is none other than Kel'Thuzad. Quite convenient really, that the quest item also has Kel'Thuzad's name written all over it. With Kel'Thuzad being the boss to collect these quest items from, that probably means that the skip will allow you to shoot straight to Kel'Thuzad, which means you can skip straight to the second to last boss, or boss 9 out of 10. That's going to let you get back to Sylvanas incredibly quickly if you use this skip, which will be good news for all of the guilds wanting to farm her for various awesome loot drops like the Special Hunter Bow, or for her mount on Mythic difficulty later on in the patch. Then we also have some news regarding the Shards of Domination system, and I usually wouldn't include something like this with it being such a small change, but honestly this one small change is actually huge for the system as a whole. If you tuned in to last week's video, we dug a bit deeper into the Shard of Domination system and finally got to see how it was all working. And we ran into a few pretty big issues, mainly relating to the fact that Shards of Domination were being handled like gems. That meant you couldn't upgrade a socketed gem and you couldn't take it back out to reuse it in other pieces of gear, or really change your setup around at all without looting the shard again. Well, a brand new item introduced in this latest build more or less fixes all of those problems in one fell swoop. You can purchase the Soulfire Chisel to extract an embedded Shard of Domination from one of your sockets. So if you get a better piece of gear, now you can just pop your shard out of your old piece and slap it into the new piece without a care in the world. This gives you so much more freedom with pretty much every aspect of the system. You can socket shards in any piece you want. If you need to upgrade them later, just pop them out, upgrade them real quick and pop them back in. Easy peasy. If you want to play around with different shard setups, that's going to be easy as well. And you'll also only have to loot each type of shard a maximum of 5 times, and that's if you really want to stack all 5 shards, assuming that's still allowed by the time the patch goes live. All in all, it's a small change, but it really opens up the entire shard system for the better. If you were worried about yet another farm to be able to purchase this item and swap your sockets around, maybe another currency that would be time gated or whatever else, you don't need to worry about that either. The chisels only cost 22 gold right now, so if that price stays the same, these will be more or less free. And while the item itself is unique, so you can only carry around one at a time, it actually doesn't have any use limits. You can use the same chisel over and over and over again, so as long as you carry your trusty chisel with you, you won't ever have to worry about unsocketing shards ever again. Another small but amazing change in my opinion is how this vendor displays potential shard upgrades for you. Previously, every shard and every rank of shard was displayed, so you'd have to sift through everything to find what you want, but now it only displays the first rank up for each shard, plus the next available upgrade of any shard in your possession. So you should be able to see what the next step would be and exactly what you need to get there. It's much cleaner and less overwhelming in general. And then last but not least, this build also introduced some new conduits for us to collect. Now I know the whole conduit system isn't the most exciting thing in the world, but having some new options is always nice, especially when we're basically forced to take part in this system. Sadly, we don't have too many to look at, and none of them are class specific, but there is one new potency conduit and one new endurance conduit. The potency conduit is adaptive armor fragment. When you are healed by another player, increase your primary stat by 60 for 15 seconds. This can only occur once every 30 seconds. So about a 50% uptime on a large primary stat bonus, providing you are getting healed constantly by another player. That's quite interesting. It's worth noting that the primary stat bonus could scale as high as 140 with the item levels available in patch 9.1. 140 primary stat is quite a lot for a buff with such a high potential uptime. Apparently this conduit is currently marked as a tank potency conduit, so it might have limited availability. And then the endurance conduit is condensed animosphere. When you take any damage, heal for 2% of your max health. This can only occur every 10 seconds. 2% of your max health isn't a great deal, but it is a passive self-heal that can happen every 10 seconds. I'm surprised that the internal cooldown on this effect is so low, and just for comparison's sake with the item levels available in patch 9.1, this effect could scale as high as 4.5% of your max health every 10 seconds. That's actually kind of crazy and will be amazing in any content where you're taking constant damage, or at the very least damage once every 10 seconds. This conduit is marked as available to all players, so hopefully anyone should be able to make use of it. They're the only two new ones in this recent build, and even though they aren't particularly interesting or exciting, they could end up being quite powerful. Gaining primary stat whenever you're healed could be very hit or miss depending on the reliability of those heals, but if you're playing in a large group, either for PvP or raids, getting healed once every 30 seconds is almost guaranteed. Well, it should be, as long as your healers aren't asleep at the wheel. And then a passive heal based off your max health that can occur every 10 seconds could also be quite powerful, especially for classes that don't have many good endurance conduits to begin with. So even though they're kind of boring, they might end up being really good. Both of these conduits can drop from the world boss by the looks of things. That's the new world boss in patch 9.1 in the Korthia zone, but more sources could be added in later on. Remember that this is still PTR information as well, so things could change by the time this goes live, and we could see a lot more conduits added into the game if that's what the dev team wants to do. But that's all of the news for this week, and that's it for this video. What do you think of the 2 new conduits that were added in? Would you prefer class conduits that interact with your spells and abilities, or a general conduits that everyone can use more interesting? What do you think the Tazavesh hard mode could include? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to everyone who has subscribed on Twitch. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss another video. Thanks for watching, folks. Good luck and have fun, and as always, I will see you next time.